One day, the paycheck stops. Not someday, not eventually, not theoretically. It just stops. And for millions of retirees, that's the exact moment retirement suddenly becomes real. Because while most people spend 40 years learning how to earn money, very few people ever learn how to emotionally live without a paycheck. And that changes everything. The bills still arrive, the market still moves, inflation still rises, taxes still exist. But now, there's no paycheck replacing what disappears, no manager, no company, no guaranteed direct deposit arriving every 2 weeks. And for many retirees, that reality quietly creates fear they never expected. Not because they failed, not because they didn't save, but because retirement changes your entire psychological relationship with money. And most people don't realize that until the paycheck finally disappears. For most of your life, money flowed in one direction. You worked, you got paid, you repeated the process. Every 2 weeks, another paycheck arrived. That paycheck became security, predictability, control. Even during difficult times, you knew another paycheck was coming. That consistency trains your brain. You stop worrying as much because income keeps replenishing itself. If the market drops, you keep working. If unexpected bills appear, another paycheck arrives. If life gets expensive, you adjust and continue moving forward. But retirement changes the entire structure. Because now the flow reverses. Instead of contributing to accounts, you begin withdrawing from them. And emotionally, that feels completely different. A lot of retirees are shocked by this. Even people with $500,000. Even people with $1 million. Because retirement is not just about how much money you saved. It's about whether your brain feels emotionally safe watching those numbers slowly move downward. That's the part nobody talks about. You spend decades climbing the mountain. Then retirement begins. And suddenly, you're told to start walking back down it. And for many retirees, that feeling creates anxiety they never expected. They thought retirement would feel relaxing immediately. Instead, many retirees spend the first years of retirement constantly checking balances, watching the news, and wondering if they made a mistake leaving work. Now imagine this. You retire. A few months later, the market drops 10%. Your $500,000 retirement account suddenly becomes $450,000. That's $50,000 gone. And unlike before, there's no paycheck replacing the loss. This is where panic begins. Because retirees don't just fear losing money. They fear running out of time. A younger worker might think, I'll recover eventually. But retirees think, what if I don't? And that emotional pressure causes people to make dangerous decisions. They stop investing. They sell during crashes. They withdraw emotionally. They become obsessed with checking balances. Some retirees watch the market every single day. Every drop feels personal. Every red number feels like retirement itself is collapsing. And suddenly retirement becomes emotionally exhausting. Not because they lack intelligence, but because the emotional rules changed. When you're working, market drops feel temporary. When you're retired, market drops can feel threatening. That's a completely different emotional experience. And this is exactly why so many retirees struggle emotionally after the paycheck stops. Because retirement isn't only financial, it's psychological, and psychology controls behavior. That's why some retirees panic sell near the bottom. That's why others stop spending money entirely. That's why many retirees become terrified of every headline. Because once retirement starts, every decision suddenly feels more important. The biggest retirement mistake isn't necessarily bad investing. It's retiring without mentally replacing the paycheck. Most people think retirement means, I saved enough money. But emotionally, what people actually want is income certainty. They want to know, can I still pay my bills? Can I survive a market crash? Can I sleep peacefully? Can I stop worrying every day? Because when the paycheck disappears, uncertainty becomes louder, and uncertainty creates emotional withdrawals. That's why retirees often become dramatically more conservative after retirement. Not because they suddenly hate investing, but because emotionally, the game changed. During working years, market drops feel temporary. During retirement, market drops feel threatening. And most retirees underestimate how emotional this transition can become. Imagine spending 40 years watching money flow into accounts. Then suddenly retirement begins. And now the entire plan depends on money flowing out of accounts. That mental shift is enormous. For some retirees, every withdrawal feels wrong. Even normal withdrawals. Even planned withdrawals. Because psychologically, spending retirement money feels very different than earning employment income. That's why retirement planning is not only math, it's emotional survival. And the retirees who struggle most are often the people who never emotionally prepared for the paycheck disappearing. But here's the important part. The retirees who feel the most confident usually aren't the people chasing the highest returns. They're the people who built clarity. They understand where income comes from. They understand their spending. They understand their risks. And most importantly, they stop treating retirement like gambling. Because retirement should not feel like emotional chaos. It should feel organized, stable, predictable. The goal isn't just building wealth. The goal is building peace. That's why successful retirement planning often becomes less about chasing maximum growth and more about creating dependable monthly income. When retirees feel confident about income, panic usually falls dramatically, and suddenly retirement starts feeling calmer. They stop checking balances every hour. They stop panicking over every market headline. They stop feeling emotionally trapped by volatility. And for the first time, many retirees begin enjoying retirement the way they imagined. Because confidence changes behavior. Clarity changes emotions. And emotional stability is incredibly important in retirement. A calm retiree often makes better decisions than a fearful retiree. That emotional difference can completely change someone's retirement experience. Retirement doesn't have to feel scary, but it does require a mental shift. Because the day the paycheck stops, retirement stops being theory and becomes reality. That reality can create fear, or it can create freedom. The difference usually comes down to preparation, clarity, and emotional control. The people who enjoy retirement most aren't always the richest. They're often the people who understand how to emotionally adapt to this new phase of life. Because retirement is not just about money, it's about confidence. Confidence that you can survive uncertainty. Confidence that your plan makes sense. Confidence that your future still feels stable. And when retirees finally feel that confidence, something changes. The fear begins to fade. The panic slows down. And retirement finally starts feeling like the life they worked decades to build. They begin sleeping better. They begin enjoying mornings again. They stop obsessing over every market movement. They spend more time living and less time worrying. Because the true goal of retirement was never just escaping work. It was creating peace. Peace with money. Peace with time. Peace with uncertainty. And the retirees who successfully make that emotional transition often discover something powerful. Retirement can become one of the happiest phases of life, not because fear completely disappears, but because confidence finally becomes stronger than fear. Because retirement changes the day the paycheck stops, and the more prepared you are emotionally, the stronger your future becomes. If this video helped you think differently about retirement, subscribe for more retirement strategies, emotional investing lessons, and income planning ideas.